C code in your scripts. That's something I'm just messing around with at the moment to see what exactly I can create and how quickly something can be created with it. But on just looking at it from the outside very quickly, it looks like an incredibly powerful package. I've produced binaries of quite a few files, some of the examples that I found in the examples folder, and the games are very impressive. They're looking very much like the ones that you would get with maybe your distro as defaultly packaged, but you can create Super Mario type games, platformers, shoot 'em ups. There's really no limit. It's not like certain game creation software where you're limited to one type of genre and you're literally just editing sprites. This is a complete package which allows you pretty much to do whatever you like, and especially the freedom with the script editor and the and being able to include C code into it. It gives you quite a lot of scope, and it's very, very accessible. I created a very simple game in about 5 minutes with it, literally doing no coding whatsoever. So I'm going to be looking at that over the next couple of days, and like I say, put a little review out onto the site, because this really is an excellent package, which I've overlooked for years. Certainly, it'd be a great educational tool to introduce new people to the programming world. So I'll be putting that onto the site very shortly. It's free, obviously it's free open source software. Anything you produce with it, obviously you can, as long as it's released under the GPL 3, I believe, then you don't have to pay a license. I think where money comes involved is if you wish to obviously sell your own work produced with this editor, then I think they expect a fee from you. Very, very good package, and I'll be covering it very shortly. So I think I've rambled on enough about this, Roy. If you want to cover a couple of other topics.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, because it was only about a couple of hours ago I found an article with a headline. It says PC gaming isn't dead, and it's been attributed to the CEO of AMD, who said that. Now, I haven't actually read the body of the article just yet. They just kind of shared the link with the person. But I think one of the debates that go on is whether consoles can replace PCs when it comes to gaming, and what kind of processors you actually have to run because one of the things that the Intel monopoly, or Intel and AMD and Intel compatible type of architectures use, one of the things you find is if the computers actually run the games that you play, you may not need consoles, or if the consoles develop very fast, you might not need the computer to play games with anymore. And this is one of the old debates that kind of affect Linux on the desktop as well, because lots of people are used to saying you cannot use Linux because you cannot run games on it, and you cannot actually play games. And one of the ways to respond to this argument is to say, well, you don't actually need to play games on a PC. You can just use a console. You can just buy a PlayStation. You can use Linux on a desktop and be fine with it. I'm not sure what your opinion is, but since you mentioned building games and
I think, I mean, I've written quite a few articles where I mentioned that the last bastion of salvation for Windows are the games that are on there at the moment, because really that's the only argument cited now for a dependency on Windows, a couple of proprietary packages, but it's mainly games if you're looking at sort of the mainstream user. You go down to your local store and you see the shelf space dedicated to PC games compared to that of the consoles, and I think it's a given that the consoles are taking over the job of being the in-house entertainment in the home. In the sitting room, it's pretty standard to have one plugged under the television. However, I do still think there is a market for gaming on the PC, if nothing else, because just having the odd little 5-minute game that you have loaded up while you're waiting for a download to complete. And also you've got some specialist online games. I'm harking now back to my youth, and probably I'm one of the dinosaurs of the net, but I still enjoy the multi-user dungeon games. So of course I have a mud client, which I'll use occasionally to have a go in my favourite mud world. I
should point out that I kind of brought up the subject, and I was trying to fit it to the theme you brought up. I wasn't planning to say anything about the claims from AMD, but I think the key point is in most advanced consoles now you don't use x86 for things like graphics or for even the GPU sometimes is being fused with the CPU. I think in the next some of the next consoles you'll see a combination and fusion between the GPU and the CPU. And the argument you have here is because the PC is so much tied to x86, partly because of Windows. Lots of people buy computers that are compatible with Windows, and Windows tends to be very Intel-centric. One of the issues you have is the room for expansion in terms of architecture. So you might find that the consoles will reach performance you couldn't get on a PC, or you couldn't get affordably on a PC. You could get lots of heat on your computer. You can get requirement of very big GPUs, or you might not have a big screen. And this is one of the areas where you possibly can argue in favor of consoles. You can stand up in the living room with some gadget, and you can kind of play around on a plasma screen if you have one. And you don't have that with a PC. Like I said, the architecture is the main issue, and I think that's the reason that those companies that sell you the chips, they try to argue that they still want to they still want to deliver people gaming computers. Quad-core computers tends to be for people who do things like video editing or gaming and stuff. I don't really think many people need it to surf the web. And this is what they make money from, trying to sell the latest patented type computer chips.
Well, I mean, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I don't want to speak for anybody listening, but I mean, certainly in my family, I'd be very resentful about keeping up to date with my with the latest hardware just to play the latest games if I was a gamer on the PC. And I think this is the other problem. People don't have the money or don't have the interest in constantly trying to keep up with the latest games. I mean, there's one that springs to mind, and please correct me, anybody, if I'm getting this wrong, because I haven't actually played the game, but it's called Crysis, and I see it being used on every single benchmark for a new graphics card or a new system that's been released. And I mean, this game was made years ago, and I think it's only now that people are actually able to run it on with maximum settings, because at the time of release it was just far too demanding of your system to get any sort of reasonable speed. And I think that highlights the nice thing about console gaming is literally plug in and play for the end user. They'll stick in the disc and they know it's going to work because everybody has the same machine, and there's no no batch files to run or any sort of patches to make because of incompatible hardware or anything like that. You know that when you stick that disc in, it's going to work on your machine. And I think that's the appeal of consoles as well. I mean, I could be wrong. There's no doubt that when you've got a high-spec PC running top-level graphics settings, it's going to outdo a console at the moment. But I just don't see people wanting to keep on top of the hardware just to play latest games when they've got the ease and convenience of it in the front room on a console, whichever one that might be. That's just my view, but I certainly won't, for my lad, I certainly won't be keeping him up to date with the latest PC hardware. And it's at the end of the day, it's the parents and the teenagers that drive the games market, as far as I'm aware, because they're the ones that are splashing out the cash. But I could be wrong. It does actually have a very interesting point, though, for a future debate, though, and it goes back to the days of the Amiga, and I won't dwell on it now, but when you have a company in control of the hardware, that's, say, in the example of Amiga or the consoles, I would argue that for a developer, certainly a bedroom coder, it gives them a lot more scope to be far more creative. I would cite the Amiga demo scene as probably the best example of creativity, because the demo scene coder knows exactly what machine, exactly what specs his or her work's going to go onto. So at the end of the day, they can do some pretty clever little tricks with that they couldn't do if they're coding for any PC or any system that that's going to get deployed onto. So, I think we'll have that debate another day. But it's it is a bonus, I think, an advantage of the consoles, that they are generic, and it does make it very much easier and very much more plug in and play in terms of a gaming sense than it would on the PC. Unless the gaming industry's changed so drastically, and I haven't played any of the more modern games, so please correct me